We're introducing a new segment this week called Schools in Session. We've got our first guest, Duxbury Superintendent of Schools, John Antonucci. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me, Brian.
You are actually kind of the new sheriff in town, but you've got a nice resume behind you. Talk to me about where you came from and how you got here.
Yeah. So I'm new to Duxbury. I'm almost at the end of my first year here in town, and it's been wonderful. The community's been very welcoming, and I've been working hard, but I've had a great first year. I come to Duxbury by way of Westwood. I was the superintendent of the Westwood Public Schools for 12 years.
Right.
And which is a long time actually for a superintendent. And I was telling someone recently, superintendents typically on the older side. And for me, I got that Westwood job at a very young age, and I always knew that I would make another move in my career. And so the time came, and I asked myself, if I was going to make a move out of Westwood, I wanted to end up in a community that really valued public education, that had a strong sense of community, and Duxbury fit that bill. And so when the job opened last year, I chased it, and I landed here, and I'm thrilled.
And here you are, and you walk into a whole new set of things. You've got new personnel. Talk to me about who's there, new assistant superintendent, new principals. Tell me about that.
Yeah, a lot of changes in the personnel side of things this year. So before I came on board, two things happened. There's some major administrative positions. The high school principal, Andrew Stevens, who had been there for about 10 years, left to take a new role in Lexington. And the assistant superintendent, Dr. Lori Hunter, took a superintendency at Concord Carlisle. So before I walked in the door, I had these two major vacancies.
Yeah.
So as far as the high school principal goes, we did a kind of a small search last summer. Appointed the current assistant principal, Jim Donovan, to the interim high school principal role. Jim has done an unbelievable job. He proved himself in very short order to be a tremendous leader. And so I think it was December or January, I actually appointed Jim to be the permanent high school principal. And I'm really thrilled for him. I'm thrilled for Duxbury. He's worked his whole career in the Duxbury Public Schools, and he's doing a great job. So that's the high school principal. The assistant superintendent, because of the lateness of Dr. Hunter's departure, I also did a search for an interim. And I was very fortunate to have landed a gentleman by the name of Tim Farmer, who was a longtime educator and most recently the superintendent of the Sharon Public Schools.
Okay.
So Tim retired from the Sharon Public Schools in August, and about a week later joined me as the interim assistant superintendent, and Tim has just done a remarkable job. It's only a one-year position, so we just did a full-scale, very comprehensive, thorough search for a permanent assistant, and we landed just a tremendous leader, a woman by the name of Danielle Klingeman, who's currently a principal in North Attleboro. So Danielle starts on July 1. I'm so excited to have her on board. People describe her as a natural-born leader. She's had tremendous success in her career, and she's really excited to join the Duxbury team. So she'll be on board July 1, and we'll go from there.
Sounds great, and we wouldn't be able to let you leave without talking about the budget. Who doesn't like to talk about the budget, right?
So budget's been a source of a lot of conversation this year and a lot of work, quite frankly. It's actually my background. I came into public education on the business side of things. I served as a director of finance and an assistant superintendent focused on business and finance. So it's an area of comfort for me. I also think it's an area of great need in public schools. So as far as the budget goes in Duxbury this year, two things. First is that I made a pretty strong commitment, even during the search process last year, and certainly when I started, to create a budget document that was very transparent and very easy to understand. I always say anybody in the community, whether it's a Board of Selectmen or a parent, should be able to pick up the budget document and understand
and make sense of it.
Make sense of it. Yeah, what we're all about, and just try to eliminate lingo, try to just provide clarity. And so I've been successful in that in my past life, and so we spent a lot of time on that in the first 4 or 5 months, and we created a document that I'm very proud of, and I think was very well received. So that's the document. The bigger picture, though, of the budget is the actual level of resources that are committed to public schools.
Of course.
And in my kind of quick analysis, and early on in my career here in Duxbury, I really think we need more resources. I actually think it's a fairly lean budget. Our per pupil spending, if you look at that metric that's widely available, Duxbury, although it's got a reputation as it is a very high achieving district and it's a wonderful community, they actually spend at a pretty low rate relative to other districts like ours and relative even to the state average. So I'm trying to start the dialogue, at least locally, about how can we secure more resources for the schools? And if so, what's the district going to look like in the future?
Got it. tech in the curriculum. This is the big thing. Every school that I go to, and I go to all the schools that we cover here, and tech is the big thing.
Yeah.
What do you guys have going on to kind of keep up with the Joneses?
Yeah, so Duxbury's done a great job before I got here with the technology, partly because they built a new building about 4 years ago, and partly because they had a superintendent who preceded me that was very invested in integrating technology into the classroom. So they grew leaps and bounds over the last 5 or 6 years in that area, to the point where we have state-of-the-art infrastructure in all of our buildings. And most recently, they've gone to a one-to-one computing model in grades 7 to 12. And that means that every student in grades 7 to 12 has a device, like a laptop that is provided by the district. The challenge right now is the sustainability of that model. So the district made a strategic decision at the time, to go with Apple products.
All right.
Every student has a MacBook Air.
Like we had growing up.
Yeah,
right?
not quite, right? So they're incredible machines, very robust. They allow you to do a lot of things. The question is, can we afford that model? Since Duxbury's made that decision, and again, 4 or 5, 6 years ago at this point, the whole landscape has changed in the area of technology. Yeah. So a device like a Google Chromebook, if you've ever heard of a Google Chromebook, which is really just kind of a portal to the internet.
Yep.
Our question is, kind of next steps. Do we stick with the Apple products, which is very expensive and potentially not sustainable? Do we transition to another device? And really, does the device matter? Right?
Really?
And so, the cloud has grown, so to speak.
Yeah.
A lot of our work is done on the cloud. So many would argue, and I'm kind of in that camp, that the device really has become a secondary part of the conversation. Is as long as we can get our students access to the cloud, how that happens really becomes secondary. So we're in that conversation now. This year we had a technology review committee that we formed. We brought an outside consultant in to come help us study both our program and also look at some research about what's happening in other districts and what's happening in the country. And the report from that technology review was made, I think, in March or April at the school committee level. And it really was just looking at, okay, where are we today and what are the next steps? And our next steps really is about, is our technology program actually enhancing teaching and learning? And that's the $64,000 question. Right. Is it just because we have shiny new products, just because we have beautiful technology? If we're not actually enhancing teaching and learning, then really it's not a valuable program.
And that could always come back to the budget too.
Absolutely.
Doesn't it always?
Yeah.
Well, I think you and I probably could have talked about this all day. I'm just looking out. I think we're just about out of time.
Oh my goodness, okay.
I want to thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
And thank you for watching. If you want to see the show again, you can check out our website, and PCN is also on YouTube. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook to get up-to-date information.